Uncertainty, baby. I think fear of the uncertainty in our lives is one of our biggest downfalls, because what would you be doing in your life right now if you trusted in the uncertainty of it? If you trusted in the areas that you feel a little unsure, a little scared, a little like, I don't know how this is going to work out. What if you trusted in those areas that everything was going to work out and everything was going to be okay? Who would you be? Like, what would you do? Who would you talk to? What would you try? What would you quit? Who would you stop talking to if you trusted that everything was going to work out? Welcome to Mirrors, the podcast and video series where we go inside and shift our inner worlds to shift the outer world around us. We often feel that the known, even if it's a known we don't like, is far safer than the unknown. When I was 25, I had a horrible job that was like killing me. It was sucking my soul. I genuinely ended up in the hospital at one point because it was killing me. And I knew I needed to quit. But the problem was, this was the most money I had ever made in my life up until this point. And as someone who doesn't come from a lot of money, that was a big deal to me. This in my brain was like my ticket out of debt, my ticket to owning a house, to having a life full of travel and adventure and abundance and fun. And I put this job on a pedestal because I thought it could save me in a lot of ways. So then when I did it, and it was killing me, and I was in the hospital, and I was miserable, and I was depressed, and I was sad, I had no idea what to do next because I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have, if this doesn't work out, I'll just do this. I didn't have another job in line that I could just quit and fall to. I didn't have a ton of savings or a ton of money that could just pick me up if I quit this job. And so I ended up feeling like I was trapped in this situation. But after being hospitalized and after watching my mental health plummet, what really got me was when I realized that I was going against my own morals, my own values, and I was living a life that was for success, for money, for things, rather than for what really felt good and for who I really am at my core. And I ended up quitting, and it was terrifying because, like I said, I had no backup plan. I had no job. I had no idea what I was going to do next. And I wish I could be here and be like, and that was the beginning to my multi-million-dollar business. And that is what started it all and changed my life forever. I mean, it is what started it all and changed my life forever, but I don't know if it's a success story yet because I'm still in the middle of it. Like, this was 2 years ago, but I'm still like in the middle of this decision, and there's so much more that I know is going to come after. And hopefully in like a year or 2 years, I can be like, yes, girl, that is actually my success story. And this trust wall is what landed me exactly where I was meant to go, but it's not that easy. I don't know if it brought me my wildest dreams, but I do know two things. Number one, this was my first time not having a job since I was 15. So suddenly I had free time that I had no idea what to do with. Okay, I've never had this much free time in my life. I started doing puzzles, like 1,000-piece puzzles. I had so much time to think. I had so much time to learn myself, to get to know myself, to really figure out where I was at in that moment and be like, okay, this is where my motives come from. This is where this fear comes from. This is what I want to do with my life. This is what I love. This is my moral code of ethics. These are my values, right? Like, I was able to dive deeper into myself, into my spirituality, into my authentic path in a way that I never had before. And what I realized is I was burning myself out at both ends. I was compromising my values. I was compromising my morals all over fear. Fear of not having enough money, fear of missing out, fear of being behind, fear of my life not looking like the people I went to high school's lives, my friends' lives, the life I expect myself to have's life. Like, I was living a life that wasn't even true to who I was because I was so focused on following the path that I was meant to follow. That was the next steps that made sense, that I was supposed to go after. And I realized I was following someone else's path. I was following this idea of success to get myself out of debt, buy a house, get married, have kids, yada yada, all that, which there's nothing wrong with any of those things, and I'll probably be on that path at some point in my life anyways, but that wasn't where I really was then. That wasn't who I really was then. And the amount of like mental and physical anguish that I was going through to get to this ideal version of myself was not worth it. And it shouldn't be that hard. You shouldn't have to fight that hard against life to be someone that you really want to be, to have a life that you really want to live. Don't get me wrong, you have to put in hard work. You have to put in hard work, you have to show up, you have to be consistent, you have to try when it's hard, but you should not have to go against your own moral code of ethics, your own values, who you are at your core in order to live a good life. That is not a good life, because that's not the path that's meant for you. And I'm talking to my old self. I'm talking to 25-year-old me. Like, that was not my path. And I wanted it to be so bad that I was like pushing myself down this path, and I was forging through, and it was like, girl, no, I don't think this is for you. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean it's not for anyone, but it's not for you, at least not right now. And so you need to quit your job, you need to recenter, you need to refocus, you need to come back to yourself, realize what matters, realize what's important. And I started doing things that I loved again. I started doing things I was passionate about again, that I had not done in my adult life. Like, after I graduated college and got my first like adult job, I really stopped doing a lot of the things that I loved doing. I stopped making YouTube videos. I stopped thrifting and crafting and just like doing all the silly little things that I used to do to fill my time. And I started doing them again. That's when I created this podcast. That's when I signed up for my yoga teacher training. That's when I really started to go after the things that I was like, no, my heart wants me to do this. My soul is like, yes, girl, you got to do this. Even if I had no money, because I didn't, I still was like, I got to figure this out. I got to do it. I got to do what my soul is telling me to do. The other thing that it did was it was like this first spark, this first little step in the direction of me being able to reframe this idea of uncertainty from one that was so scary to one that's like, oh, maybe uncertainty is actually just limitless potential. Maybe it's expansive creative opportunity. Maybe it's like all of this limitless possibilities that I could have anything in this world. I could do anything. I could be anything. And that can either be terrifying or it can be so exciting, depending on how you look at it. Anything in life is a perspective. Nothing is the exact same, or nothing has the exact same connotation to one person as it does to the next, because we all have different perspectives, we all have different beliefs, we all have different life experiences, we all have different traumas, we all have different paths, we all have a different set of feelings and thoughts and responses in our brains that is going to create a different perspective to each situation. The thing is that we can kind of choose this perspective to a degree. You can, to a degree, choose your perspective, choose what you decide to believe in. So this was the first moment of me deciding that uncertainty is exciting and is the area and the space in which I can grow everything that I've ever wanted. I have always had anxiety. Like, since I was 5 years old, I used to cry to the point of throwing up on the way to school every single day because I had so much fear of going to school, of what people would think of me, of if I was going to make friends, of if I was going to do well in school, if I was going to do well in my classes, if I was going to have anyone to sit by at lunch. And it has grown with me. I still have so much fear and anxiety, as we all do. I know so many people watching this probably have a lot of anxiety and a lot of fears. And I think we live in a society that really perpetuates that and makes money off of our fears, makes money off of our anxieties. And so it's definitely perpetuated. We're a lot easier to control. We're a lot easier to be influenced. We're a lot easier and quick to purchase things if we feel scared and if we feel lack and if we feel like we don't really know what's going to happen, but that we need something outside of us to be okay. When you boil down anxiety, what is anxiety? Anxiety is the fear of a lack of control. It's a fear of uncertainty. It's wanting to control situations and outcomes and people's opinions and people's perspectives and the way people see us and what people do and what people say and how we move around. Like, that is the overall premise of anxiety. Do we really have control? Do we really know anything for certain? No. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, control is an illusion and certainty is an illusion. Like, I do not know what this next moment will bring, or that next moment, or that next moment, the next day, the next week, the next year. I have an idea, but I don't know for sure. And I also can't really control any of it. We can control a couple things. And some of you might be like, no, I can't control this, but I mean, I feel you on this. We still technically can control our thoughts. We can control our feelings. We can control what we do, our actions, and it ends there. Our reactions to things. That's all we can really control. And all of those things make up our perspective. Like, our perspective really influences our thoughts, our feelings, our decisions, and what we do. And that is how we manifest anything and bring anything into reality that we are daydreaming about or working towards. But it's not like we can just snap our fingers and make something happen exactly how we want to in the exact time frame that we want to. We have a degree of control, but there's a lot of trust that comes into manifesting or living in any way. There's such a degree of trust and certainty. Like, we genuinely just never know exactly what's going to happen. So our lives could be dramatically improved if we learned to work with this uncertainty, if we learned to work with this lack of control and to alchemize it to something that can actually help us and be our friend versus our enemy. That is so healing and so freeing. I know this fear of the unknown, this fear of lacking control is what stands between a lot of what I want, of who I want to be, and a lot of my most authentic parts of myself that I don't even really let myself meet or see because I'm so scared of the unknown. And I feel like the known is far safer than the unknown. We can spend our whole lives terrified of what's going to happen next, terrified that at any point the rug's going to be pulled out from under us and we're not going to be okay. We can be terrified of our own failure, terrified of falling, terrified of the unknown. Or we can step into our power and we can recognize that fear is human and normal and okay and just trying to keep us safe at the end of the day, but that uncertainty is potential. It's possibility. It is the space in which everything we've ever wanted can grow. It's the space that magic can happen in. Uncertainty is where a lot of our happiest things lie, like when we'll meet someone that we'll fall in love with, or when we'll have a baby, or when we'll find our little soul dog at the animal shelter. Uncertainty is when we're going to bump into someone that becomes our best friend, or where we'll travel with our friends. Uncertainty is how are we going to use our skills, our lives, our purpose to make the world better, to bring us money, to bring us fun, to bring us food. Uncertainty is also heartbreak. It's also pain. It's also suffering. But those are our lessons. Those are our points of growth. And that is what brings us to our next point of joy in the uncertainty. When you think of a river is flowing. It is flowing down its little riverbed. And sometimes there's rocks. And sometimes those rocks are really big. And they're just right smack dab in the middle of the river. Does the river flow backwards? No. Does the river freak out and flow upwards? No. Maybe it splashes a little bit. But the river flows around it. It molds around it, it adapts, it pivots. And that's what we do. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for it. A lot of times we can want to turn around and run the opposite direction. We can want to freak out and flail our arms. But at the end of the day, we figure it out. We mold, we adapt, we pivot, and we do a pretty damn good job, okay? Give yourself a little pat on the back for all the times you've had to adapt and pivot and work through something that you, when you saw it, were like, oh my God, this is a huge obstacle and I'm terrified. You can figure it out. You are way more powerful and way cooler than you may think. There will be rocks. They will be big, they will be small, they will be annoying, but we are so capable of flowing through the uncertainty of life. We are so capable. Uncertainty will always be there. And when we can foster a better relationship with it, when we can foster a sense of mystery, a sense of intrigue, a sense of fun with all of this unknown, and when we can trust in the unknown and find joy in the unknown instead of consistently fearing the unknown, we might make decisions that are a lot more authentic to us at our core. We might have a lot more fun. And honestly, if anything, we might just be a little less stressed, which we could all use. We aren't meant to all live the same lives. We aren't meant to know exactly what's going to happen next. We aren't meant to plan every single little detail of everything and have it go exactly according to plan. That'd be really boring. That'd be really boring, and all of the magic that's happened in your life so far wouldn't have happened. Like, when I think about all of the magical people that I've met, or the situations I've been in, or just the right place, right time, none of that would have happened if I controlled everything. If I controlled every aspect, every detail of life, none of that would have happened because I wouldn't have been able to control that. And those are the moments that make life fun. Those are the moments that make life worth living. When you meet that person, right place, right time, when you're in the right situation, when you're talking about something and you're having fun, when you're just hanging out with your friends and existing, when you are just living in the moment and flowing through the obstacles, the joy, the setbacks, the fun, you find so much peace, so much presence, and the point of living, which is literally just to experience. Point of life is not to plan. It's not to perfect. It's not to do everything exactly how you're supposed to or how someone else did it. The point of life is to experience. That includes the ups, the downs, the known and the unknown. Where can you let go of the status quo in your life, of doing and of being everything that someone else, even if that person doesn't exist and it's just this imaginary person in your head, tells you that you're supposed to do and be? Where can you let go of doing what's expected of you or what you should do? Where can you step into your authenticity? Where can you step into this unknown? Where can you step into this uncertainty? And what can you step out of? What no longer fits you? What is not working for you anymore? Where can you step into your authentic truth, even if there's nothing certain about it? Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you next Friday. As always, the video version of this episode is on YouTube, and the audio version is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find me on TikTok and Instagram, where I make short little versions of everything you see here and more.